Episode 10 of the Summer I Turned Pretty Season 3 isn't just another episode, it feels like the one we've all been waiting for. The love triangle that has been tearing Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah apart is finally reaching its boiling point. And trust me, this isn't going to be some calm, easy ride. This is where decisions will be made, hearts will be broken, and the future of these characters will finally start to take shape. If you thought episode 9 left you with questions, just wait. Episode 10 is setting up answers that might shock every single one of us. After the emotional rollercoaster of episode 9, episode 10 immediately throws us back into the tension that has defined this season. Belly may have started to rebuild her life in Paris, but let's be honest, her past is not something she can simply run away from. Every choice she has made up until this point, every moment she's tried to leave behind, is about to come crashing into her. And the scariest part? She knows it too. That little peace she found in Paris isn't going to last, because Conrad and Jeremiah are both still a part of her story. Whether she likes it or not, what makes this episode so gripping is that for the first time, we really see Belly starting to realize she cannot avoid making a choice. For 3 seasons, she's been caught in this storm of emotions, always going back and forth between Conrad's steady, deep love and Jeremiah's warm, open heart. And while fans have argued endlessly about who she belongs with, this is the moment where the show itself begins to push her toward her final answer. The stakes have never been higher because every character around her is also reaching their breaking point. Let's start with Jeremiah. Even though episode 9 showed him trying to let go, his feelings are still raw. And that pain isn't something that disappears overnight. When he hears about Belly's time in Paris, it stirs something inside him that he's been trying to bury. He's caught between wanting to move forward and refusing to lose what he believes is still his. And honestly, I think this moment reveals something big. Jeremiah's love has always been mixed with competition. It's not just about Belly, it's about beating Conrad. That makes his emotions even more dangerous because he's not just fighting for love, he's fighting for pride. And pride is what always gets people hurt. Conrad, on the other hand, is in an entirely different place. His guilt over confessing his love on Jeremiah's wedding day is still haunting him. But so is his undeniable love for Belly. He's tried to respect boundaries, tried to step back, but every time he does, something pulls him right back into her orbit. The letter he decides to write in this episode isn't just a gesture, it's proof that he cannot stay silent anymore. It's him saying, even if it's too late, even if it hurts, I need you to know the truth. And that kind of desperation is something we've never fully seen from him before. It's not about being the calm, quiet Conrad who hides his feelings. This is a Conrad who is willing to risk everything. But what makes this episode so dangerous is how these 3 stories collide. Belly's peace is shattered the second Conrad reaches out, and Jeremiah's anger explodes when he realizes what's happening between his brother and the girl he can't stop loving. For fans who have been waiting for that final confrontation, episode 10 is exactly where it begins. You can almost feel the tension building with every scene, every word, until it becomes clear that nothing is going to stop this storm. The other characters also play a huge role in shaping the episode's emotional weight. Taylor and Steven, the only couple who seem to have figured themselves out, give us a glimpse of what love can look like when it's healthy. And honestly, that contrast makes Belly's situation look even messier. Taylor forgave Steven, Steven grew up, and together they proved that love can survive mistakes. But Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah are still trapped in their cycle of heartbreak. And that difference makes the triangle even more painful to watch. Because deep down, we all know it doesn't have to be this hard. But for them, it always is. So the question hanging over episode 10 is simple but terrifying. Who will Belly finally choose? And maybe even more importantly, what will it cost her? Because no matter what, someone is going to lose. Jeremiah's pride, Conrad's heart, or Belly's own chance at peace. And with only 2 episodes left until the show ends forever, there's no more room for hesitation. Episode 10 is the start of the endgame. Now let's really break down what's going on beneath the surface in episode 10. Because this isn't just about who ends up with who, it's about the way each character has been shaped by everything that's happened over the past 3 seasons. Every decision feels heavier now, every word feels like it could be the last one. And you can sense that this love triangle is no longer just teenage drama. It's turned into something that defines their futures, their identities, and even their families. When it comes to Jeremiah, the thing that stands out most in this episode is how much he's lost himself in the idea of Belly. We've seen him try to be her safe choice, the one who's always open, always ready to give. But the cracks are starting to show. His heartbreak in episode 9 already pushed him to the edge. And episode 10 keeps showing us that he hasn't really healed. He's pretending like he's letting go, but his anger, his jealousy, and his constant need to compare himself to Conrad prove otherwise. This is where the audience begins to question, was Jeremiah ever truly in love with Belly? Or was he in love with the image of winning her? That question adds a new layer of suspense, because if Jeremiah's love is more about competition, then his next move could be more destructive than loving. Conrad, meanwhile, takes a completely different path in episode 10. He's quieter, yes, but he's also more determined than ever. The guilt he's been carrying over his mom, over his dad, over Jeremiah, and most of all, over Belly turns into action here. Writing that letter is more than just a desperate act of love, it's him choosing to stop hiding. We've seen him push Belly away in the past, convince himself she'd be happier with someone else. But episode 10 shows us a Conrad who no longer wants to protect himself by staying silent. And that shift is powerful, because for once, he isn't holding back his feelings. The suspense here is knowing that as soon as Belly reads those words, everything changes. No matter how she reacts, there's no turning back, and Belly, she's stuck right in the middle. But episode 10 finally starts pushing her toward clarity. The piece she thought she could build in Paris starts to unravel the moment Conrad steps back into her world. And honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing. For too long, she's been running, avoiding, pretending she can leave her past behind. But in episode 10, the show forces her to stop. She has to face both Conrad and Jeremiah head-on. And she has to admit to herself what she truly wants. And that's the hook for all of us watching, because we know the answer she gives could change everything. But here's where things get even more suspenseful. For the first time, the love triangle isn't just about romance, it's about consequences. If Belly chooses Jeremiah again, does she risk repeating the same cycle that already broke them apart? And if she chooses Conrad, does that destroy her bond with Jeremiah forever? The brothers' relationship is already cracked, and episode 10 makes it clear that this decision could be the final blow. That's what makes this episode feel so heavy, because no matter what happens, somebody is going to lose something they can't get back. The side stories also add fuel to the fire. Taylor and Steven's relationship looks stronger than ever, and the peace they've found almost feels unfair compared to the chaos of the love triangle. But that's exactly why their presence matters. They represent the possibility of healing, of moving forward, of finding love that doesn't tear you apart. And for Belly, seeing Taylor happy with Steven might force her to realize just how broken things have become between her and the Fisher brothers. It's like the show is daring her to ask herself, do I want love that feels safe and lasting? Or do I want to keep drowning in the drama? Then there's Conrad's bond with his dad, which has quietly been growing stronger in the background. Episode 10 gives us hints that Conrad is finally seeing Adam in a new light. And that matters more than people realize. For so long, Conrad has been carrying everything on his shoulders: his grief, his responsibility, his guilt. But letting his dad back into his life could give him the strength he needs to fight for Belly without falling apart. It's a subtle shift, but it adds so much to Conrad's journey. Because if he's stronger, if he's finally ready to face everything, then maybe this time he won't let Belly slip away. The suspense of episode 10 builds on all these threads until they're ready to snap. Every scene feels like a countdown. Every conversation feels like it's pushing us closer to the final confrontation. And the biggest question in the back of everyone's mind isn't just who will Belly choose? It's, can any of them survive this choice without breaking apart completely? Because this isn't just about love anymore. It's about family, loyalty, pride, and the fear of losing everything that matters. That's what makes episode 10 so thrilling. It's not giving us answers yet, but it's tightening the rope, pulling the tension so tight that you know it's about to break. And once it does, the fallout will be bigger than anything we've seen so far. By the time we reach the middle of episode 10, it becomes clear that this love triangle isn't just a subplot anymore. It's the entire heartbeat of the story. Every little move, every conversation feels like it's leading towards something bigger, and the tension is almost unbearable. Belly's time in Paris, which started off like an escape, is now starting to feel more like a trap. Because no matter how much she tries to enjoy her new friends, her job, or even little moments of happiness, the shadow of Conrad and Jeremiah hangs over her like a storm cloud. And this is where the show reminds us that you can't truly move forward until you deal with the past. What makes this part of episode 10 so compelling is that we finally see Belly beginning to realize the weight of her choices. For seasons, she's been bouncing back and forth between her feelings, treating her love life like a puzzle she'll figure out someday. But that someday has arrived. She can no longer just push Jeremiah away with soft words, or keep Conrad at arm's length to protect herself. Every word she says now carries consequences. You can almost feel her hesitating before speaking, knowing that whatever comes out of her mouth could shatter one of them forever. And let's be real, this isn't easy for her. Belly has always wanted to protect the people she loves, even when she's the one causing the pain. That's what makes her so relatable and so frustrating at the same time. In episode 10, you see her struggling with that guilt more than ever. She doesn't want to hurt Jeremiah, but she also can't deny her feelings for Conrad. And that internal tug-of-war makes every scene she shares with either brother feel like a battlefield. You're constantly wondering, will she finally be honest, or will she break down and run again? On Jeremiah's side, things start to turn darker. His heartbreak, which looked like sadness in episode 9, sharpens into something closer to resentment. Every time Conrad's name comes up, you can see the shift in his energy. He's not just hurt anymore, he's angry. And anger is dangerous, especially when it's mixed with jealousy. There's a moment where you can almost tell that Jeremiah doesn't just want Belly. He wants to prove Conrad wrong. He wants to prove that he deserves to win, no matter what it costs. And that right there is the moment the love triangle stops being about romance and starts becoming about pride and rivalry. Conrad, on the other hand, is stepping into unfamiliar territory. He's usually the one who pulls back, who avoids making things worse. But episode 10 pushes him in the opposite direction. The letter he writes Belly is the first crack in his armor, but when that isn't enough, he makes the boldest move of all. He decides to show up for her in person. And that's the point where you realize just how far Conrad has come. Since the beginning of the series, this isn't the quiet, distant boy who hides his feelings anymore. This is someone who's ready to fight, not with anger or pride, but with honesty. And honestly, that shift makes him more unpredictable than Jeremiah. Because Conrad with nothing to lose is Conrad at his most dangerous. And Belly? She's caught right in the middle of this collision. She thought she could avoid it by starting fresh in Paris. But episode 10 makes it clear, Paris was never an escape, just a temporary pause. The second Conrad and Jeremiah re-enter her world, all the old wounds reopen. And the worst part is, her own heart betrays her. Because as much as she wants peace, as much as she wants to move forward, she can't ignore that her feelings for both of them are still alive. That's what makes this part of the episode so gripping. You can see the pain in her eyes every time she has to face them, knowing that no matter what she does, she's about to hurt someone she loves. Meanwhile, the contrast with Taylor and Steven becomes even more important. Their calm, steady relationship almost feels like it's mocking the chaos of the love triangle. But in reality, it's giving us a glimpse of what Belly could have if she finally made a choice and stuck with it. Taylor and Steven are proof that love doesn't always have to be this destructive. And that parallel adds another layer of pressure on Belly because deep down, she knows she deserves that kind of love too. The question is, will she be brave enough to grab it? Or will she let fear push her back into the cycle of heartbreak? The suspense of episode 10 lies in these little moments, the glances, the silences, the hesitations before someone speaks. Because you can tell that everything is building toward a breaking point. Jeremiah's anger, Conrad's determination, Belly's indecision, all of it is pushing them closer and closer to an explosion. And by the time we're halfway through, you just know it's not a matter of if it will happen, but when. And when it does, nothing will ever be the same again. As episode 10 moves deeper, the tension that's been building finally starts to take shape. This isn't just little hints or passing glances anymore. The love triangle begins to crash head-on. And honestly, you can almost feel the energy shift. The walls Belly built for herself in Paris start crumbling the moment Conrad shows up. And Jeremiah senses it instantly. It's like every unspoken thought, every buried emotion from the past 3 seasons, suddenly rises to the surface all at once. For Conrad, this is the moment where his decision to stop hiding comes alive. The letter was his first step, but showing up in person proves he's no longer afraid to put everything on the line. You can sense in his body language, in the way he carries himself, that he's ready to fight for Belly, not in a loud or desperate way, but in a calm, determined way that almost makes him more powerful than ever. This isn't the Conrad who runs from his feelings. This is the Conrad who knows exactly what he wants. And that makes him dangerous because once Conrad stops holding back, there's no way to predict how far he'll go to prove his love. Jeremiah, though, is the complete opposite. His emotions are raw, unfiltered, and boiling over. Episode 10 shows us just how much he's unraveling under the weight of rejection and jealousy. Every time he looks at Conrad, you can see the pain turning into something darker. It's not just about Belly anymore, it's about not wanting to lose to his brother. And that's what makes his side of the story feel so tragic. Because deep down you know Jeremiah truly loves Belly. But the shadow of competition has twisted that love into something almost unrecognizable. He's not fighting to be chosen, he's fighting not to be left behind. And that fear makes him unpredictable. Belly stands between these two forces. And this is where the episode really shows us her growth, or at least, the beginnings of it. For so long, she's been carried by her emotions, letting herself get swept away without really owning her choices. But episode 10 puts her in a position where she can't run anymore. Conrad's presence forces her to confront the truth she's been avoiding. And Jeremiah's anger demands an answer. The weight of it all nearly breaks her, and honestly, you can feel that fear in every scene she's in. She knows that once she makes her choice, there's no undoing it. And that pressure is almost too much to bear. What makes this part of the episode so powerful is the way the relationships are mirrored against each other. Taylor and Steven, calm and steady, remind us of what love can be when it's rooted in trust. Conrad and Jeremiah, on the other hand, show us what love becomes when pride and pain get in the way. Belly is caught in the middle, staring at two different versions of what her life could look like. And the longer she hesitates, the more we realize that her silence might cause even more damage than her words. And let's not forget the weight of family history pressing down on all of this. Conrad's bond with his dad is beginning to mend, and that gives him a kind of strength Jeremiah doesn't have right now. Jeremiah, meanwhile, is clinging to his pride, carrying his pain alone, and it's eating away at him. That difference creates a powerful contrast, one brother grounded, the other spiraling, and Belly has to choose which energy she wants to carry into her future. The suspense in episode 10 comes from knowing that the confrontation is inevitable. You can see it in the way Jeremiah looks at Conrad, in the way Conrad refuses to back down, in the way Belly's heart pulls her into directions at once. Every scene feels like the calm before a storm, and by this point in the episode, you know the storm is about to hit. The only question left is when it does, who will be standing when the dust settles? Because here's the truth, episode 10 isn't about happy endings. It's about breaking points. It's about seeing just how much these characters can handle before something inside them snaps. And as much as we all want to see Belly finally choose, the real suspense is in whether that choice will heal them or destroy them for good. By the time we reach the climax of episode 10, there's no avoiding it anymore. The confrontation we've been waiting for finally begins. All that tension simmering beneath the surface, all those quiet moments of hesitation, finally burst open. And it feels like this show has been building to this exact moment since the very beginning. Conrad, Jeremiah, and Belly are no longer just circling around each other. They're face to face, forced to lay everything out. And the weight of it hits harder than anything we've seen all season. Conrad's side of this confrontation feels the most steady. He isn't yelling, he isn't losing control, he's simply standing firm in his truth. For the first time, he's not afraid to tell Belly what she means to him. Not afraid to admit that his love has never gone away. And what makes it even more powerful is that you can see he's not trying to win her as some kind of prize. He's not competing with Jeremiah, he's not trying to prove anything, he's just finally being honest. That calmness makes him stronger than ever because when someone speaks from the heart without fear, it's hard not to listen. Jeremiah, though, is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. His emotions explode in every direction. He's angry at Conrad for stepping in, angry at Belly for not choosing, and angry at himself for believing things could be different. His words come out sharp, sometimes cruel, because pain is fueling everything he says. And honestly, this is the Jeremiah we've been waiting to see, the one who can't hide behind smiles or jokes anymore. The one who lets his heartbreak show in its rawest form. It's tragic, because you can tell that underneath all that anger is someone who just wants to be loved. But the way it comes out makes him feel like he's pushing everyone further away. And Belly, this is the breaking point for her too. She's been avoiding, hesitating, hoping that somehow she could escape without choosing. But episode 10 forces her to stand in the middle of two brothers who are pouring their hearts out and demanding an answer. And you can see the way it tears her apart. Every look at Jeremiah reminds her of the warmth and safety he once gave her. Every glance at Conrad pulls at the deeper, unshakable connection she's never been able to let go of. It's not just a decision, it's like she's being asked to choose between two versions of herself, two versions of her future. And that's what makes her silence feel even heavier than words. The suspense of this confrontation doesn't just come from the words spoken, it comes from the fear of what will happen once the words are finally out. Because everyone in that moment knows that nothing will be the same after this. If she chooses Conrad, Jeremiah might walk away for good. If she chooses Jeremiah, Conrad might retreat into the silence that's defined him for years. And if she refuses to choose, she risks losing both of them forever. It's a no-win situation, and that's what makes it so heartbreaking to watch. And what adds another layer of intensity is the history behind it all. These aren't just random boys fighting for the same girl, they're brothers. They've shared a lifetime together, carried the same grief, the same memories, the same pain. And now, in this moment, all of that history is being ripped apart by love. You can see it in the way Jeremiah looks at Conrad, not just like a rival, but like someone who betrayed him. You can feel it in the way Conrad struggles to balance his love for Belly with his loyalty to his brother. This isn't just about romance, it's about family being torn apart in real time. The side characters fade into the background here, but their presence still matters. Taylor and Steven, who have managed to find peace in their own relationship, almost feel like witnesses to the chaos. Their calmness is a reminder of what stability looks like, and in contrast, it makes the confrontation feel even more explosive. Because as much as Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah want to believe love can bring healing, right now it's only bringing destruction. The climax of episode 10 doesn't give us all the answers, but it gives us the fire we've been waiting for. The storm has finally broken and every emotion is spilling out with no way to control it. You can feel the heartbreak in every word, the desperation in every silence, and the fear in every glance. And by the time this confrontation reaches its peak, one thing is clear: nothing will ever be the same again, because once the truth is out, there's no going back. And the fallout from this moment will shape not just the final episodes of season 3, but the very end of the series itself. When the dust finally settles after that explosive confrontation, the silence that follows is almost louder than the shouting that came before. It's that kind of heavy silence where nobody dares to move, because whatever happens next could change everything. Belly stands at the center, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly. And for the first time in the entire season, she doesn't have anywhere to hide. Her heart is laid bare and the weight of her decision is crushing her. And then, finally, she speaks. Her words don't come out polished or perfect. They stumble, they break, they cut through the tension like a jagged edge. But they're real. Belly finally admits that her heart has never been able to let go of Conrad. She loves Jeremiah, yes, but not in the same way, not in the kind of way that can last forever. It's Conrad who has always been at the core of her, even when she tried to run from it. And the second she says those words, you can see Jeremiah's entire world collapse right in front of you. Jeremiah's reaction is devastating. He doesn't lash out like before, doesn't shout or accuse this time. It's worse. He just goes quiet. That pain, the kind that's so deep it steals your voice, is written all over his face. He gives Belly one last look, not of anger but of heartbreak. And then he turns, his shoulders heavy, and he walks away. That single act hits harder than any words could, because it's the moment you realize that Jeremiah isn't just losing Belly. He's losing the bond with his brother too. Conrad, on the other hand, looks just as broken as Jeremiah, even though he's the one Belly chose. Because this victory doesn't feel like a win. He didn't just gain Belly, he lost a piece of his brother, and the guilt sits on him immediately. It's almost as if he wishes he could go back in time, take back his confession. If only it meant Jeremiah wouldn't hurt this much. But there's no one doing it now. Conrad has Belly, but at what cost? And Belly herself doesn't feel triumphant either. The moment she's waited for, the clarity she thought she needed, comes with a price she wasn't ready for. She has Conrad, yes, but she's also shattered Jeremiah in the process. And deep down, she knows this wound won't heal easily, maybe not at all. You can almost see the question in her eyes. Did I do the right thing? Because sometimes choosing what feels true to your heart doesn't make the outcome any less painful. The ripple effect spreads fast. Steven, who has always been the voice of reason, looks torn. He knows Belly deserves to follow her heart, but he also knows what it means to fracture a family like this. Taylor, ever loyal to Belly, offers her support, but even she can't deny the damage left behind. The Fisher house, once filled with laughter, now feels cold and broken, as if the ghosts of everything they've lost are crowding the walls. Episode 10 doesn't wrap things up neatly, it leaves us in the wreckage. Jeremiah walking away alone, Conrad holding Belly but looking over his shoulder with regret. Belly caught between love and guilt, and the rest of the group standing in the shadows of something that may never be repaired. It's a bittersweet ending, one that doesn't give you the fairy tale but instead forces you to sit with the truth. Love is powerful, but it's also destructive, and that's what makes this finale unforgettable. It's not about Belly choosing Conrad. It's about what that choice cost everyone. It's about broken trust, fractured family, and the realization that growing up means making choices that don't have happy endings for everyone involved. And as the credits roll, one question lingers: can the Fisher brothers ever heal from this? Or has the love triangle finally destroyed the bond that once held them together? One thing's for sure, this ending changes everything. And the fallout from this single episode is going to echo far beyond just this season.